Soils in Africa, especially in Ghana, are fast encountering nutrient depletion. These experts in the agricultural space are attributing partly to some farming practices, including non-judicious use of synthetic or inorganic fertilizers, which is hampering the nature of soils on the continent. On today's discussion here on the food chain, we will be interacting with some experts on some farming practices that can help curtail nutrient depletion and also restore the health of the soils in Ghana. My name is Emmanuel Bright-Kweku. Stay with us. Several research conducted by soil experts on the quality of Ghana's soil reveal nearly 40% of the country's soil is degrading. Nutrient content to facilitate plant growth is now inadequate in the soil. Owing to the higher demand of farm produce against the growing human population, application of inorganic fertilizer became the common practice for a bumper and quicker harvest. But experts say revolutionizing the sector through synthetic farming techniques has rather contributed to depleting soil fertility. Many farmers across the country are recording lower yields.
When you grow your crops, maybe at the time that it's supposed to rain, the rain needs to be a minimum. You get much rain.
Judith Daite is a maize, pepper and okra farmer in the Volta region.
I used to plow half an acre or 1 acre. Then you get like the dry pepper. For the pepper, you get like the number 5 sack. You get like 6 or 8. But now, even if I plow 1.5 acre, I don't get up to 5. After the season is over.
Is this in any way affecting your income?
Yes, please. When the climate is not smooth compared to the previous one, the inputs and then the money that you invest in it sometimes is higher, and then the production is low. So after selling all your crops, you see that the money you put inside the farming business and the money you got as the outcome there's a big difference. Loamy soil and the sandy soil. When you grow your crops, maybe at the time that it's supposed to rain, the rain needs to be a minimum. You get much rain that will lead to crop abortions, and then your crops will be dying. And the time that you need more rain, then it will be shiny. Then you also run out loss, the crops dies.
They die.
Due to the sandy soil and those things.
The consequential impact on profits made locally is pushing farmers to export their produce.
For the pepper and the okra, now, though the pepper is not much, but when we don't sell here again because of the money, so we took it, we export it to Togo. So when you sell, let's say for 1 bag, now it's 1,008 and 2,000 due to the currency exchange rate.
And then before how much?
Then before it's 1,000, 1,002.
Reports suggest 2023 is on track to become the hottest year since global records began 2 centuries ago. Already, the impact of the changing temperature is negatively affecting the horticultural sector, especially in the northern parts of the country, which experience intense sunshine. Professor Harrison Dapa is a crop scientist.
Climate change is affecting most of our horticultural crops. In fact, recently, when we looked at the mango sector, for example, we've seen that there has been increase in the mango weevil and other pest disease on the mangoes, which has affected the export potential of the mangoes and others. When we look at the citrus or the orange sector, we have all those kind of limitations which are coming out of the climate change. So as for climate change, it has had serious impact on the horticulture sector. Farmers' fields are actually flooded and others. And then we have the environmental increases in pests and diseases all over the place because of the changing environment.
I traveled to the northern region and then I took their soil sample. I smelled it, and then it didn't smell like soil. It didn't smell earthy. And I realized that most of the soils there do not have microbial activity. So I started doing my own personal research and realized that most of the foods that are coming into the market, they are dead foods. Because if the soil is dead and it doesn't have any microbial activity, no plant activity that can even trap carbon and then it boost the microbial life in the soil, then it means that we are not giving foods that have nutritional value.
With dwindling farming production capacity threatening Ghana's food security, nutrition security is additionally becoming a major concern. Francis Appiah is head of the horticulture department at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology.
When you are dealing with nutrition security, it goes a little beyond food security. Food security is looking at the quantities you are taking, but nutrition security is looking broadly at intake of food for well-being. So you are not only filling your stomach, you are ensuring that your sanity is intact, your health is intact, and then beyond that, you are even looking at the situation where you are able to prevent health, immunity, and all those things. So that's what nutrition security takes us to. And if we are not food secured, we are unlikely to be nutrition secured. Depending on the location and access to specific food types, the body requires different nutrients and so on. And if persistently you are eating one type of food, because that's the only one available to you, you are likely to be deficient in some nutrients that you could get from other crops, which probably have been threatened and therefore unavailable in your location, and sometimes depending on the seasonality and all those things. If you are only filled with carbohydrates, then you are sure your immunity is not strong. And so you have to get constant access to good nutrition, and not only in the quantity, but in the variety, in all its versions. And over the period, we have even indicated that as much as you want to eat, you should have food with different colors, because the colors depict the kind of nutrients and then sometimes the phytonutrients present that could support your immunity. So different portions of foods with different colors, which have different nutrients and so on, are very important for health.
Experts in the horticulture sector are advocating the uptake of regenerative agriculture to mitigate climate change and restore healthy soils.
Now we should reduce the number of times that we plow. We don't need to till. We don't know tillage or reduce tillage. Then we also said we need to reduce the application of biochemical inputs, the fertilizers, and then the insecticides that we spray for the pesticide. And we can only do that if we have integrated farming systems or horticultural systems, or we rotate the horticultural crops with other field crops so that we can maintain the fertility and also break the pesticide cycles.
Including nitrogen-fixing legumes, biochar applications and others, farmers can adopt best farming practices to boost their soil quality. Audrey S. Daku is founder of Sabon Saki, an agri-tech company transforming the agriculture sector with climate-smart and resilient practices.
High level, it contains nitrogen, right? And for me, it's a natural form of it. So you get to plant, for instance, soya bean into your land, and your land might be depleted of nitrogen to grow your crop. So you planting that in, you will not just only get soya bean at the end of the day. You're able to fix the nitrogen you need so that the next cropping season or the next plant you want to integrate into that land can get to feed on that nitrogen in that soil land. And I feel that that's exciting, right? You're building a closed loop system where plants that have a lot of value, right, are able to also share that value for other crops to also benefit from it. And that is beautiful. And so we need to also share that knowledge with farmers that, growing this, instead of buying it, you can easily get it from another plant, for instance. Well, when you speak to farmers right now, especially the farmers within our network across 10 communities, you'd have a lot of complaints around high acidity, right, of soil. And when you have acidic soil, you don't really expect things to grow very well, right? And that is something the excessive use of chemical fertilizer tends to bring about. And also with the flooding and all that's going on, you tend to have that chemical, right, rushing and running into water bodies that would either end up back into the farmlands or back into your water that you might drink or use to take a bath. And it's time that we realize that the solutions are within the earth, and you can make fertilizer that produces food that you can easily pluck from the farm, put it in your mouth, and you will not be diagnosed of something that could kill you months or weeks later. And as much as that seems to be the order of the day, chemical fertilizer, we want to champion the use of regenerative, organic, climate-friendly products, soil products, into our space now, because now the climate is how do I call it? The climate is reacting negatively to the conventional, way of farming where you incorporate chemical fertilizer. So, in as much as that might have also shown good results, we need to look at the reaction and the effect of what that is now, considering the change in climate. And if we don't start to look at that and just feel that is conventional, that is standard, we would definitely stand to lose. So the time now is to go back, work with nature. Sankofa should be the term, and we will start to reap the benefits. Biochar is a stable form of carbon that is produced using biomass waste or agricultural waste of some kind. And for instance, coconut shells could be harnessed. You could have sugarcane bagasse, you could have rice husks, and so many other biomass waste as well, even maize cobs as well. And you then in a controlled system, right, you can put that into, for instance, a cylindrical object. It's charred up in an oven with fire, and then there's limited to no oxygen supply within it. What then happens is that it comes into a more stable form of carbon, which is food for the soils. And that means it has more permanence. It can stay in the ground for longer, and that supports the soil structure of the land, crop cycle. So honestly, when you incorporate biochar into the ground, it's some form of carbon farming, and that's under regenerative agriculture. It's one of the techniques of doing that. So in making it, you can have maybe a kilogram worth or a ton worth of biomass waste. It's dried up. You put it in your oven. That is, in controlled state of oxygen. It's fired up just like charcoal, but not in open air. Okay, and then that gives you a black material which is carbon rich, and then you can incorporate it into the ground a few weeks into your transplanting time, and then you can even allow the rain to fall into it so that it can even mix it up even further. It tends to have so many benefits as well. It has so many benefits. One is the fact that you can sequester carbon into the ground, right? And that's a way to support soil structure. It can also help retain soil moisture into the ground. So in areas where they are lacking a lot of rain or not able to have irrigation supply, it's a means to kind of increase the plant water availability of your land. A second thing as well that we've discovered, using it over the time, is that it also helps to improve the bioavailability of nutrients into the land, right? And ensuring that it can keep the soil in a way that nutrients are not just, eroded away, but are attracted to the land and to your plant. Aside that, it's excellent to kind of incorporate it with, other organic materials like compost. Some have also tried it with other types of fertilizer, and it does well as well. So it's that simple to do, and I think it's time farmers, run with what they would call waste or residue on their farm, see that as valuable, and either start to learn how to make it on their farm so that they don't suffer from the deficit in soil inputs during their planting season. But we're also, so as part of the other regenerative farming techniques that we teach our farmers and train them to do, we're looking at ways where we can use more degradable material, right, in our planting. So conventionally, farmers or other farmers would use plastic mulch, right, either to kind of suppress the weeds or manage their weeds, or to kind of, build some sort of system. And for us, we feel that kind of traps more heat into the ground. It's also black at times. It doesn't degrade, right? It's plastic. You would have to be buying more, reusing it. And then as well, it really doesn't add any value to the soil. So we're starting to advocate for the use of cardboard material, which is degradable back into the land, where old used cardboards could be cut up, placed onto the surface of raised beds or mounds, or even portions where plants are grown. When it rains, it's able to soak back into the ground, degrade, and then even act as good biomass mulch, right? And then as well, it's also able to retain water and make the earth cool, where they're experiencing a lot of extreme high temperatures. So we feel that that's material to get easily access to, not too costly compared to a plastic mulch, but as well it adds value to the land.
Okay, now let's look at some farming practices that is contributing to climate change or even global warming.
Currently, there are a number of practices within the agricultural sector that are harming the environment. One, which is the excessive use of chemical synthetic inputs into the ground. It could be fertilizer, it could be pesticides. We all know that it has the tendency to not just increase acidity into the land, but as well harm the natural pollinators like bees, other microorganisms, other friends and family of the farmland that actually ensure that seeds are growing and other plants are also yielding. And for us, that is a no-no, because we intend to ensure that we can have healthy food to grow, not just grow food, but healthy food. Another practice I am seeing is the tilling of land, right? I'm not a big believer of tilling the ground because there are networks of microbes and organisms in our soil that are interacting with each other. And when you have a machine that is digging down into their network and destroying and disrupting their connection and their flow of value to our land, it means that it depletes or creates deficit in our nutrients and into how we build soil structure and reduce soil erosion. So I'm also an advocate for no tillage, and use of smart ways and smart technology that ensures that you don't tamper too much with your soil, but are growing your seeds where it needs to grow, and but still ensuring that the network under the ground is interacting as seamlessly as possible. Please enter this place.
Taking up the old farming practices, there is hope for the farmers.
We shall be having great yields when we grow our crops. And what I've also learned that we think that by burning bushes, it is a quick way of farming, but I've seen that we are just destroying the farm. Then in another way, we use chemicals. And these chemicals, we consume them. And they destroy a lot of living things which help to nourish the land. So all these things are going against us. And all these things also, they are going far into the atmosphere, destroying everything. That is why we have these traditional ways of doing things. So even our great-grandfathers, they did better than what we are doing because they used the natural way of doing things. So it is better for us to turn away. And we've learned that by burning all these things into ash, it will help us to let us have good yields.
I normally do use these organic materials to let the crop not, because if I use chemical fertilizer like this and it's not raining, it will affect it. It will suffer. It cannot withstand the sunlight. So I use organic materials. Now I know it's not good for me to use chemical fertilizer on my farm because the climate changes will affect me. Second, in a pesticide, I have to use that tree, limb tree. I have to use limb tree and then the seed to prevent my pests.
The benefit is very huge because, one, you don't add chemicals to the food. You don't add chemicals to our food products. And you manage the soil with the sense that it can regenerate. You see green vegetation than the dry grassland. So I think the regenerative agriculture is very good because you don't use harmful chemicals in farming. And you see green land on your field. You don't crop and you see the dry land whilst the crops grow. But you can see green land whilst the crop grows. So definitely we are maintaining natural nature for the future generation.
So with the imminent threat to food and even nutrition security, it is imperative that we restore the nature of our soil here on the African continent. I hope you enjoyed today's discussion here on the food chain. Join me same time next week for another exciting episode. My name is Emmanuel Brightsquick.